people get caught up on the wives submitting to their husbands, but they want to look past that. It says that husbands should love their wives just like he loved the church and gave himself up for the church. He died. I mean, he suffered the ultimate sacrifice for the church, and we're called to do that. So it's not that I don't matter. It's not that my feelings don't matter. It's not that I'm just being like hard and putting up a shell, putting up a wall. It's that my ultimate responsibility as a husband is to protect my family. And sometimes that means protecting them against these big emotions that come along with something like cancer, because it can affect your entire family, especially the one that's closest to you, right? The one she's carrying my child, and how scary must that be for her in this phase? So I wanted to try my best to live that out and protect her emotions as we go through this.
My friend, you do not hear it enough. You matter. Your role as fatherhood has the power to change the world. Thank you for being here. I encourage you, step into your identity as a man, as a father. The world is in desperate need of men just like you. 3 nuggets from my conversation today are: 1, chivalry is not dead. 2, the significance of calling up young men, especially those without a father figure in their life. And 3, the power of presence. Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 11 to 18, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yep, I'm in the thick of it, and I'm working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my new friend, Braden Rubey, and he is a CrossFit coach and a gym owner in Texas at Unicus Athletics. We dig deep into his life becoming a father the past year. This is a powerful conversation about life, resiliency, and the power of being present. All right, Braden, what is up, my friend? Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How are you today?
I'm awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm so pumped to talk fatherhood with you. First question right out the gate. How old do you find yourself today?
I'm 36.
36 years old. And how do you feel? What does 36 feel like?
Man, I feel good. I don't know if I had an expectation of what 36 would feel like, but I feel pretty good.
You feel good.
Yeah.
How many years you been married?
Just over a year. So a year was in March. So
Love it, dude. Love it. And then how many kiddos do you have, and what are the ages?
So I have a 10-month-old baby girl, and I have a 19-year-old stepson. So
love it.
Got a big gap. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Okay. So new dad.
Yeah.
How's it feeling? How has that adjustment at, 35, 36, stepping into fatherhood? Like, how does that feel? What's like the biggest kind of like maybe thing you didn't know or feeling that you've had around stepping into this at 35, 36?
I think having my first child at 36 was a blessing. I've wanted children my whole life. When I was in my early 20s, I got married really young and wanted children so bad when I was young, and had no idea that I wasn't ready for that. And so I've watched a lot of my friends grow up and be fathers, and they all talk about like, there's going to be something different whenever your child is born. So really feeling that, and like, now I get it. It's different when it's yours. It's different when you're there, like in the delivery room and your child was born. So having that feeling after so long of like anticipation, I guess, has been pretty incredible.
So a question I ask a lot of guys is like, at what point did you embrace fatherhood? So you're still in this new phase of being a dad with a 10-month-old. but you had this desire to be a dad for a long time. So when do you feel like you embraced it? Like you're going, this matters big time. Was it the moment, you heard, hey, I'm pregnant, you're going to be a dad? Was it in the delivery room? Was it when you held your baby for the first time? Where did you really have this click that this is like a big calling on my life?
I've thought about fatherhood for so long that I've known it was very important. Some of my best friends have stepped into being a father before I did. And so I've been able to walk with them through it. So I've seen the importance of it. I had a great father. He was always there for me, which was a huge blessing growing up. Some of my closest friends did not have that. My wife didn't have that. So being very close to others that didn't have what I was blessed with really showed me how important that was going to be whenever I did become a father. Was kind of in a unique scenario. I found out that we were pregnant in a really weird time. I was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma, and like 2 weeks later on my birthday, found out that we were pregnant.
Wow.
So a lot of like,
tell me about that moment. And then did it take with the same kind of thought what's your wife's name?
Maribel.
So for Maribel, how was that for her? Because I got to expect that like the delivery of telling you I'm pregnant may not have been the same as if you obviously didn't find out you had stage 4 melanoma 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that season.
A lot of different emotions all in that same time frame.
Yeah.
I don't think it took away from the moment at all. It was actually on my birthday. So I own a gym and I coach our early morning classes. So I had just coached like our 5 a.m., our 6:30 a.m., our 8 a.m. classes. And I came home and she was like, hey, I need to show you something. She said, I received something this morning and I don't know what to think about it. I'm like, what in the world? Thinking that like she got a letter in the mail.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
And then she shows me the pregnancy test that has like the 2 lines on it. And we had we're able to celebrate that day and all of that kind of stuff. But our baby girl has been such a big blessing during this time because she's all that I'm focused on. Right. And even in my fight getting healthy, it's all for my family. It's for my wife and for my daughter. And so it's given me something to fight for, but it also really emphasizes that like every little moment now, it's not that it matters more than it would have without cancer, but I'm aware of how much every moment matters now, which has been one of the biggest blessings in my life. I tell people all the time that my diagnosis has been a major blessing. That like, it's almost weird to say it, but I'm glad that God trusts me with this challenge, and that if He trusts me with this, that I want to navigate it as gracefully as I can for my family. So I don't think it took anything away from that moment of like learning that I was going to be a father. I was excited. I mean, I was ecstatic. The whole pregnancy was incredible. I'm that dad that like, I don't miss an appointment. I'm in there.
Yeah. You're at everything.
Appointment for everything. Yeah. So
do you think that would have been the same if you hadn't been diagnosed with cancer?
I don't know. I want to say yes.
Yeah.
I want to say yes.
How has your spirits been? Like you go for 9 months, Maribel's growing this human being. How was your spirits and how was your health during that time? And then how did you not fall into like a depression or a sadness, or are there moments that you did?
It's funny you asked that. I actually spoke with my wife last night because I said I was going to open up on this a little more than I had before, because I feel like it could help people, right?
Yeah.
When we first found out that we were pregnant was in like this really rapid decline in my health. So I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer just over 2 years ago. They cut it out. We did the scans, no cancer, felt like we had beaten it, all of that. And then when I found it again, it had spread to distant lymph nodes and it had spread to my liver. And we were going through all of the insurance process of trying to get things approved, and nothing was working. I was declining pretty rapidly. Things were getting worse. I started doing a type of chemo that's called immunotherapy, and that wasn't working. And so we were having follow-ups and the tumor was growing rapidly. I have what's called a BRAF mutation, which is a mutation in the cancer cells that makes it resistant to things like chemotherapy. It also makes it grow really, really fast. So it went from the size of like a grape in my armpit to 14 centimeters, which is like a,
Wow.
and that was within like a couple of weeks. So for me, that was really, really tough. I tried to make sure that for my family, it wasn't. So the majority of the emotions that I was feeling, I tried to deal with those in prayer on my own, on my like drives to work in the morning at 4:00 in the morning when it's dark, because I didn't want that to take away anything from my family life at home. My wife was pregnant. I wanted to make sure that her anxiety was as low as possible. Pregnancy was healthy. I didn't want that to affect her. There was one moment that I did have a pretty tough day. She made it to every single appointment that I've been to except for one. And it was one where they were going over how the immunotherapy that I was taking was not working and we needed to rapidly change things around. And for some reason, I wasn't comfortable with that. I didn't want to change the course of what we were doing. And the doctors told me that we had to change something because at the point that it had spread to my liver, I had a 7% chance of making it to even see my baby girl in December. And then that same day we had like an ultrasound appointment. So I went from like cancer doctor to the ultrasound appointment. I hadn't told her that yet. And that's the one time that I broke down and I saw how much it affected her if I wasn't strong. And so in that moment, I decided that like, this is much bigger than my feelings and my fears. And I need to be strong to like protect my family and to protect her. And so from then on, I tried to really make sure that I kept everything as close as I could, that I didn't project those feelings onto her, partly to protect my wife and make sure that she is comfortable and feels good about, bringing a baby into this world with this illness that we were dealing with.
So this is great because this is like on a massive scale as far as like, what does it mean to be a man and lead your home, right? We're talking about, like if I have a shit day at work and I come home and I bring all this anxiety and like frustration to my family, I'm just kind of a weak man and, looking for a mom to, coddle me when I get home.
Yeah.
So I want to be a man that can handle the war or the battle and then show up and not hide it and bury it and be deceitful, but also know how to learn to deal with these things with like a God who cares about me and with other brothers, who I can talk with. So talk to us a little bit about that, because what I'm hearing from you is not that stuff like Braden doesn't matter, stuff it down, but you learned a way to it seems as though healthily deal with it. And do you think that is true? And if it is, then how did you go about doing that so you didn't just have this freaking heavy ass weight on you?
So I've thought a lot about this specifically and about it and almost struggle with it in some levels, thinking that it was something that I was like bottling up and pushing down and that was unhealthy. And I always have kind of fallen back on like what we're called to do as men in the Bible, what God calls us to be. And in Ephesians, he tells us basically to die for our wives,
Right.
so to speak, right?
Yeah.
People get caught up on the wives submitting to their husbands, but they want to look past that. It says that husbands should love their wives just like he loved the church and gave himself up for the church. And he died. I mean, he suffered the ultimate sacrifice for the church, and
Gave it all.
And
we're
called to do that. So it's not that I don't matter. It's not that my feelings don't matter. It's not that that I'm just being like hard and putting up a shell, putting up a wall.
Yeah.
It's that my ultimate responsibility as a husband is to protect my family. And sometimes that means protecting them against these big emotions that come along with something like cancer, because it can affect your entire family, especially the one that's closest to you, right? The one she's carrying my child, and how scary must that be for her in this phase? So I wanted to try my best to live that out and protect her emotions as we go through this.
Yeah. So three kind of question avenues I want to ask about. I'm going to go simplest first. So you own a CrossFit gym. You are in freaking awesome shape. I mean, I met you like 3 weeks ago at your gym. Thank you so much. You let us use it for our Rise of Kings event. Would never have known that you had cancer, in this, in meeting you. So here's the first question is, to what level were you even able to like train and use fitness as a way to like help you through this time? Did that help release kind of, frustration around this, or did you have to really pull back from training?
Yeah, I think strength conditioning and a base of that has set me up to be able to handle the treatments and just the cancer itself much better than if I hadn't had that base. All the treatments they're tough. Like, I'm not going to act. They're not tough. The immunotherapy appointments, they're tough. They kind of take me out for the day, and radiation was really, really tough. But having a base of strength, having enough muscle mass to not lose a ton of weight. I mean, I dropped a bit of weight, but I had that mass there. So instead of withering away to nothing, I had some weight to lose, so to speak. And so I really do think that helped out as I went through all of this. I almost, another blessing of this is like I preach that all the time. I try to preach to our members that this is your suit of armor. The training in the gym, the strength and conditioning that we're building. Yes, it's fun. Yes, we want to look good. We want to feel confident about how we look. We want to lift heavy. But this is your suit of armor. This is what prepares you for what actually matters. And now I'm forced to live that. I'm forced to put my money where my mouth is and live that out. And it has made a big difference.
Have you been able to train?
I have trained through it. There's been times that I've had to take off. So there's times that I've had to take off from training. I just couldn't. But if I'm able to, and if I'm physically able to train, I train at the gym.
And has that helped you with it? Like, has that helped you with the stress, the pain, the frustration of being in this, or has it been defeating? And maybe it's been both at different times.
Definitely both at different times. There's times that it makes sense, right? There's times that it gives me my sense of normalcy. I've had a little more presence in my training, so I wouldn't say I enjoy it more because I'm out of shape. I'm not in the best shape, so like the workouts hurt a little more. But I enjoy being able to do the workouts. I've competed through this.
Wow!
I did a competition with my dad.
That's killer.
Was 65 last year, and I was 35. So we were able to sign up for a 100 plus masters competition. So that was awesome, being able to compete alongside my dad. I raced mountain bikes through this. So that's what I do now is I race mountain bikes, and I've done a couple of different mountain bike races. I did a 100-mile race this summer.
Holy smokes. So how much did that help you to not fall into depression, just to make it simple? Focusing on having still this fitness role, how much did that help you not fall into like, oh, woe is me? And do you think help with your process?
It's been since I own a gym, it's like the pillar of my life. It's how I make my money. It's where I find enjoyment and all of that. And so I do believe that being able to stay active has held everything together. Being able to stay active and then having the community around me at the gym to really pick me up has been huge.
Love it. Now, the second avenue I was going to ask is God, right? So I'm thinking about you figured out how not to like burden your wife kind of through this process in a sense. So training has helped. Now, the second one is God. How have you leaned on God? And talk to me about that as like, yay, I'm a Christian and I have God in my life. And also, God, what the hell? Why is this happening? These two sides of the coin. How has that process been?
My journey through my faith over the last couple years really started getting deeper right before we got married and right before my diagnosis. And so it's carried me through this. I've never been much of somebody who just pours myself into prayer. And that's helped a lot. So my quiet time, my alone time, my drives to work in the morning, in the dark, that's been my time to be vulnerable, right? I try not to be vulnerable around my family to protect them. So I still need that time. It's not that I'm bottling up and not showing that or ever letting it out, but I've leaned in on my faith and been vulnerable through prayer, and that has helped a lot. I've seen what this relationship with Christ is supposed to be like through this, because I'm a little more present. And I've seen some awesome things happen, miracle things happen through all of this. I've had prayer groups that have showed up at the gym just to pray with me. One specific one, this is a little long one, but one specific like actual miracle is I was waiting on approval for immunotherapy a year ago during that time when things were growing rapidly, and insurance denied it. They said there were other forms of chemotherapy that I could try before we would do the immunotherapy, because immunotherapy is more expensive. And my doctors are telling me, since I had this BRAF mutation, that the chemotherapy would not work, that our only option is immunotherapy. So we were devastated that they were basically telling us that there was nothing that we could do. And our training at the gym, I program Monday through Wednesday, are fairly hard days, and Thursdays is an active recovery day. And I encourage our members to either come and do our active recovery workout or get outside for a long walk or a run or a bike ride. And so it's a slower day in the gym. And I pull up in the morning for our early morning classes. I get there about 4:30 in the morning, and the parking lot was packed already. The parking lot was packed. Garage doors were open. Lights were on. What in the world? I'm always the first one to get here. And I walk in, and it's wall to wall people in the gym, members, past members, friends from church, members that I haven't seen in years, that haven't been a part of the gym in years, are all in the gym at before 5 o'clock in the morning. And they said they wanted to pray for me. They kind of circled around and they did like a little shotgun prayer. And I hadn't shared a lot with them, but people had asked. And so they had known that we were struggling with insurance. They knew that that things weren't looking good. And I coached through all of this. So they had kind of watched me decline a little bit as well. Yeah. So we did that. It was awesome. It was, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes of prayer. everyone kind of went their separate ways. I did my morning classes and all that. I finished our morning classes at 9 o'clock, and I'm driving home, and insurance calls and they approved it. It was on a Thursday, and I got my first round of immunotherapy the next Tuesday.
Wow, bro.
That's wild, isn't it?
It's wild. It's good. It's interesting.
It was that instantaneous, like, almost like a little like reminder, like, I'm here, I got you, don't worry. It gave me that sense. It gave me that sense that God kind of reached down that day and said, like, I do hear prayers and I do answer prayers. And that gave me a lot of encouragement moving forward.
Oh man, I love it. My next question, which this answered it to some level, was, to not put that burden on your spouse. Like you've talked about is like friends and community. So like, how are you able to lean into friends to maybe offload some of your burden? And I know you're not coaching at the gym, like dumping your laundry out, right? Yeah. You said they could kind of see, but that was definitely a community where you had to stay strong for them and be, like you said, put my money where my mouth is. So like in the case of like real stuff's happening, I'm still pursuing being this man I know I'm called to be. But did you have any other relationships, maybe like men, pastor, anything that was a place for you to be able to like kind of unload some of the things that you were feeling and going through?
Yeah, I have the pastor of our church. He's awesome. Brad Larson. He's here local, and he married us. He did our marriage counseling and all that kind of stuff. And he's always checking in, taking me to lunch and just seeing how I'm doing. We don't go real deep into feelings. And I think most of the people that know me know that I don't want to talk about that. But just the fact that people ask and that they're there, that's enough for me. A lot of our members are always really encouraging when I'm working out with them. I try to jump into our classes and I work out in the classes. So partnering up with everybody and them treating me like everything's normal, joining races with me. One of my closest friends who's always there for me, but we don't really talk about feelings. He went along with me for this 100-mile mountain bike race. So I got to drag him along for that. And it's times like that where like we can suffer together. We don't necessarily have to talk about the struggles. But just knowing that those guys are always there that you can lean on is something that I guess I thrive on more than talking.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'm such a talker that it's like, is that always the best way? So hearing the place that you're at, the stability that you're at, the willingness to open up now, like the way you open it up to us, that it doesn't have to be just through talking, but the idea of being with like someone else's presence. And you've had some good, like time with training, time with God, time with community and friends, that just the idea, like just to be together is in not isolating yourself.
Yeah.
So dude, beautiful. All right, I'm sure this is going to continue to be part of the conversation, but I want to jump into a couple of questions. Yeah. What do you think the role of the father is? Like for you, what is the role of the father? What does it mean to be a father?
So I answer this in a couple of different ways. I think one of the specific roles of the father here is to create a safe environment for our kids to thrive and learn and risk. And they can risk and fail in a safe environment. That's always where my mind first takes me to. But I also believe that the role of the father is to make sure that our children know God as well. So those together, making sure that they know God, that they have a relationship with him. You can't force it. I can't choose when they accept that, but at least showing them what that looks like and showing them what a godly father and a husband is sets the tone for the rest of their life. And then making sure that they feel safe, that they feel protected, that they feel like they're in an environment that they can try things and succeed and fail, and risk is important.
Yeah. Talk to me about risk. Why is risk important? Why is risk important?
I think risk is extremely important. Risk is where we learn where our limits are. If we don't risk anything, then we put ourselves in a small box and we, lock the door and make sure that we never do anything that we could fail at. So pushing those limits and finding your limits always takes a little bit of risk. Sometimes those are large risks. Sometimes they can be small risks. Starting your own business, that's a pretty big risk, right? But that the confidence to do that comes from an accumulation of small risks over time that build that confidence up. I think you learn a lot more from failures than you do from successes, and you would never fail if you didn't risk anything. So you've got to stack those risks up to create learning experiences.
Love it. I'm going to ask a question about this. So, how long have you had your gym? How long has that been open?
I've owned a gym for just under 11 years. We were 10 years in June.
Okay. So 10 years owning your own gym. So 25 years old, took a risk around there.
Yeah.
Own your gym at 35 or so. You got married a year ago, had a baby 10 months ago. In what ways over the last year of becoming a husband and a father have you had to shift some things in your life? Owning a gym, getting up at 4 a.m., pretty regimented guy. So sometimes us men, we can get stuck in our ways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how have you had to make shifts the last year? And maybe even you foresee there's some shifts you're going to have to make over the next couple years of doing life the way you did it for 10 years, solo in a sense, to now I got wife and kid, gym, etc. So what are some ways you're stuck in your ways or you've made shifts already?
Man, before I guess the responsibility of family, it's really easy to make it all about yourself, right? You train for yourself, even if I'm preaching to my members that you're training for health and you want to be a strong father and you want to be a strong friend and you want to be a strong community member and all of that. When it's just you, it's really easy to still make it about yourself. Training for competitions or whatever that is. And being able to do that whenever you want. For me, it was being able to escape and ride my mountain bike for hours in the woods and be able to that's my like quiet time and be able to just do that. And now it's, it might be on the trainer in the house because I'm on dad duty, or it might sacrifice that time to, rock my baby to sleep or something like that. But, they are sacrifices, they are changes, but they're well welcomed changes as well. I mean, it's part of stepping into that role.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, because I'm 20 years into marriage and I'm 18 years into being a dad, and I'll still have these moments where it's like, I really want to be, let's just say picking being at the gym or mountain biking. And you finally get to that thing, you're like, 30 minutes into this thing. And then there's this overwhelming feeling like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Like, my family is not that you shouldn't go work out, but I still find that there's these moments of wrestle with that selfishness. And once I get what I want, which is to be surfing or doing whatever, then I'm in the thing, just kind of wishing I was back with my wife and kids. Have you had some of those experiences the last year?
Yeah. It's like you feel guilty. You finally get what you thought you wanted and you feel guilty.
Yes. But it's not like a guilty, like your wife's making you feel bad. No. She's like, go do your thing, get some time. It's like you yourself are like, dude, I really want to be with them, kind of thing.
Yeah. Me and my wife actually joke about this together some, because the first night that we took a date night and asked my parents to watch Ray, and we went on a date night. We were out. It was like 8:00, and we looked at each other and we're like, I'd rather be home. was ready.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we got home at like 9:00. Like my parents were expecting us to be out later, and we felt that together of like we finally got this alone time with each other, and all we can think about is being together as a family.
Mm.
I struggle with it personally, but I'm trying to set my life up to where I can try to have both.
I think it's important to have both for sure.
Yeah. So currently, like we're setting up our gym space and our home on the same property. I talked to you about that a little bit because we want
Yeah,
to go.
super exciting.
And I've created a trail there for me to train on while I'm at home. The gym is going to be there. So leaving for work or leaving to train or leaving to have that time that I need for myself, investing in my health and investing in my fitness, it won't feel like as big of a gap. It's not a 6-minute drive to the gym. It's not an hour drive to the trail. It's some of that can be right outside. Now there's going to be times that I want to be able to go ride a trail that's an hour away, and that's going to be okay. But if the bulk of that can be close to home, I'm hoping that it kind of mitigates that some.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I love it. Okay. You brought up your dad. He's obviously a badass, 65, you're 35, you do this race together. But thinking about your relationship with your dad, what's something that you really appreciated about your dad when you were growing up? And if you're willing to answer, what's something you wish your dad would have done differently?
My dad was always there. Almost too much. When I was younger, the like middle school, high school, Braden might say that he was around too much. And
Crap, my kids are going to say that about me.
the adult
Oh my
me
gosh.
understand, like looks back and is like, man, it's so awesome that my dad was there all the time.
Right. Right.
So he was always there. He was at every event, every game, all the way through college. I played football in college, and at the same time that I went off to college and started playing football there, he works for Lockheed Martin, and he got a job where he was going to be traveling to Great Britain basically for months at a time. And he told them that he would take it as long as they would fly him back every Friday night so he could watch the football. He can go watch me on Saturday and then fly back on Sunday or Monday. And I think he missed one college game.
What? How long is that flight?
I have no idea. I mean, it's from Great Britain to...
Bro, we got to get that guy on the show. That's crazy.
Yeah, so he did that. I mean, it was he has more miles than we could ever utilize.
Yeah.
On his airlines, from flying from Great Britain back home every Friday, watching a football game on Saturday, and then flying back the next week. So he was that dad that was always there, that was always supportive. He held me accountable big time.
Wow.
Grew up as a gymnast, and I tell this story a lot as well, that we had a meet in San Antonio, Texas. I think I was like 13 years old, and I got third place, and I was fired up. I thought it was cool. Like I got to stand on the podium. I got third place. And he didn't say one word the entire way home because he was upset that I didn't give my all. So he didn't care that I got third place. He cared that he knew that I didn't give full effort. That's why I wear this shirt every single day, because that moment, and my dad throughout my entire childhood instilled that it's the effort that matters, not the outcome, right? It didn't matter if I got first or third or last. It mattered on if I did put my full effort in. And so he really instilled that into me as a young child.
So in your opinion now, was his expectation of your effort realistic or not realistic?
I think it was realistic.
Cool. So it's been positive. So that instillment of like, give it 100% or 100% of Braden, it feels like that's been a positive affirmation that he's instilled in you.
Yeah, it's definitely been positive. I mean, he still does it now. I'll finish a race or I'll finish a competition, and he'll, like, the first thing he says is, "What could you have done differently?" or "What did you learn from that?" So he's always looking for like, could I have given more effort? What could I have learned from that experience? So he still does that to me now, but I think it's always been positive.
Does he try to beat you when you guys do stuff?
Not anymore.
That ship sailed, huh?
Yeah, not anymore. But he used to. When I was younger, he'd
throw down at whatever it was. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So, what's something you wish your dad did differently?
I grew up in the church, but my mother was the one that took me to church. Her family was the one that grew up in the church, and my dad is a Christian, but he doesn't show it as much. He does go to church with us, but that wasn't something that was instilled through him. My grandfather on my mother's side, he was really the driver for that. He was an elder in church. He was really the one that taught me anything that I learned as growing up in the church. And they picked me up on Wednesdays, took me to church on Wednesdays. My mom was the one that took me to church on Sundays. So I got that seed that was planted early on of what a relationship with Christ should be. But I didn't get it from my father. I think that's one thing that I wish that maybe was a little more directed from him. And now as an adult, they've joined the church with us for the last few months. And so now I'm getting to see him in the church, and that's been really, really, really great to be able to sit there with them and have him there with us every Sunday.
How did your dad's relationship with you shift at all, if at all, when you found out that you had cancer?
I know that he's taken it really hard. I found out that my grandfather had lung cancer a month before I found out that I had cancer.
Sheesh.
And
so that was his dad.
So within a month period of time, he found out that his dad had cancer. We got married a week later. And then a week later, he found out that I had cancer. So I know.
And that you were having a baby.
And then like 2 weeks later, we found out he's going to be a grandpa.
And was that his first grandchild?
Yeah, it's his first grandchild.
Damn, that's so gnarly. Do you think that those pieces of like reality of life, right? Because he's the guy who's like, yo, I negotiated this deal to fly back to Great Britain. Like I could do anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's a badass guy. But these components of like, you have no control over these things.
Yeah.
Do you think those are things that brought him to church?
Maybe.
And you could say pass if you want.
I don't want to say pass. I mean, I want to be open about everything. I think his granddaughter got him to church.
Yeah.
Big thing.
Yeah.
For me, I don't care what gets you in there. God doesn't need a specific thing to get someone in the seat.
No.
Once you're in the seat, he's going to do his thing regardless. But I do know that the last 2 years for him, I can imagine it has to be hard. We don't talk about deep feelings. I know he loves me tremendously. Like I don't need him to tell me that. He does tell me that, but I don't need him to. But we don't talk about those things. We spend our time together. We'll go up to the ranch and we'll take care of the ranch, and we'll spend 12 hours on a brush hog mowing everything down, and that's our time together. So that he's been supportive through everything. He's been at treatments and the surgeries that I've gone through. I've gone through 4 pretty major surgeries over the last 2 years, and he's always there for all of that. But I mean, I can't imagine how hard this has been for him.
Yeah. Very different to think about you being, sick versus your kid being sick.
Yeah.
Man, I want to dig into this for a minute because I love some of the things you put in the notes here, but, this podcast is Fatherhood Field Notes. You're opening up your life, obviously, big time. For a guy who doesn't want to be vulnerable, you're opening up, sharing a lot with us. the mantra behind it is rebel and create, so as men, we are warriors. So what is something that you are rebelling against, but not just to be destructive? You want to create something in its place.
Yeah.
When you hear that, what comes up for you?
So one of the things that I actively am rebelling against is, I don't think it's something malicious in our world, but there's this big shift of the father and the husband's responsibility is to provide financially. And that's it. You hear that all the time. You hear, well, I put a roof over your head and those kind of things. And I don't ever want to be that kind of husband. Of course, I want to provide financially for my family, but that needs to be a small piece of what I provide for my family. I believe that specifically to my wife, but I believe it's a husband's job to make them feel like they're special, make them feel like they're the only woman in the world. And so bringing back some of that chivalry that I think is lost, it's gotten to the point now where, like, if you open the door for someone, it's strange. You know what I mean? Like,
it's crazy.
They look at you like, oh my God, you opened the door for me. You held the door open for me. And I don't like that. I want to rebel against that. It's my job to, like, take care of my business and nothing else. And I don't like that. It's not just that. My job is to take care of as much as I can. My job is to open the door for you. I don't want my wife to touch a doorknob if I'm with her. I don't want her to have to drive us around if I'm with her. I want to carry her bags as long as I'm strong and healthy and able. I want to carry her bags because it's also my job to make sure that she feels like she's the only woman that I care about, because she's the only woman that I should care about. Becoming a father has really highlighted that for me. Obviously, Ray, my baby girl, is 10 months old, so she's not worried about boys, but I want to set the tone that what she expects out of a man's attention, I want it to be so high that there's no chances of her looking for something that she shouldn't, right? I want her expectations to be so high that if someone doesn't treat her well, she doesn't want anything to do with it.
So let's keep wrapping on this. When I read your response, right, in the Google form you filled out, you said the word chivalry, and I kind of forget about this word. And I was like, oh, I hope he brings it up. And as I was kind of preparing for this, because I hate it. Like, I want to teach my son to open a door. If he's by a door and there's a woman there, I want him to open the door, right? So, like, he obviously sees me treat my wife this way, but if I'm going into the grocery store, I'm going to let a woman go first, or I'm going to open the door. But we're living in this culture where you almost second guess it. Like, someone's going to be like, I don't need you to do this. And I saw it the other day. I saw this nice young man offer this woman a seat on the bus, and she didn't take it. And it was like, dude, he's trying to be chivalrous and kind and honoring. And I mean, everything about her told me she didn't take the seat. So thinking about chivalry, I looked it up, right? And I wanted to have the definition for us. But chivalry, so there's two things. I want to get your thoughts on it. So chivalry was a code of conduct, right? So, like, as a man, a code of conduct, but it was for knights in the Middle Ages that emphasized honor, bravery, loyalty, and generosity. The other thing that I thought was cool about the word chivalry is it was a code of conduct established to control the behavior of knights who were often heavily armed and prone to violence. And the reason why I'm like, yes, this is awesome, because we're not also in a healthy way acknowledging that you and I as men are freaking powerful. Like, we could go tear stuff up if we needed to and wanted to, right? Like, we don't honor the fact that we have a strength to be a warrior, right? We don't want to honor that. And so I think both sides are important when you think about chivalry. Like, here's the thing, dude. In my home, I could, with my voice and my hands, could go destroy my family. Like, literally with my words and hands, I could destroy them. And that happens, right? Or I could come in and I could build so much life and safety and love. And you said it a couple times, like environment. So I just love this idea of chivalry. In the definition, what comes up for you? Like, what continues to resonate with you?
That's interesting. I did not actually know the definition of chivalry. I mean, you use it, I think of it more of opening the door, walking on the street side.
For sure. Like honorable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those kind of things. But I do love that because there's no honor in controlling yourself if you don't have the capability to lose control.
Yes. Yes, that's the piece right there. I love this.
So yeah, the fact that you are physically superior, that you do have the ability for violence, the fact that you can create violence, but you choose love, that's where the honor comes in that. That you don't just use what's easy, because sometimes it would be easier just to be physical. It would be easier just to control a situation with your strength, but choosing not to is what is good. If you didn't have the ability, if you were just weak, then you're not being good. You're just weak.
Dude, and that's what so many men fall into, is like choosing to be weak or choosing to be passive. But when you think about meekness, right? Blessed are those who are meek. And you talked about how to love your wife. That's Jesus on the cross. When everybody's mocking him, like, yo, this guy could come down, and he could call 1,000 angels, come down right now and handle this. But instead he chooses I'm serving. I have all the power, but I'm serving. That's what you and I have an opportunity to live each and every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also our responsibility to have that ability to protect. And that could mean that you need to get violent. Obviously, in this day and age, that it's very few times that a husband or a father needs to use that.
Right.
I don't ever want to have to be violent for my family, but I want to know for a fact that if I needed to, that I could get nasty. And I want my family to know that too. So you have to have that peace to protect them, never use it against them.
Yes, and I think sometimes we think of like violence or presence of like badass warrior in just a violent way. But I'll give you an example. Like I've got 18, 16, and 15-year-old daughters. I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son too. But as an example, my 15-year-old daughter just had a boy come to her house who she likes, but he had to meet me. He had to come over, shake my hand, and know that I'm present. I don't remember in high school a dad of any of my girlfriends ever connecting with me at all. And I'm not saying that I'm not cleaning the shotgun. I don't need to clean a shotgun. Come over to my house. I'm physically fit. And the fact that I'm present. And I just laid out the rules. I was like, hey, you and my daughter can be talking. I don't want you texting her past this time. I don't want you to step a foot into my house. If I'm not home, she's not allowed to step a foot into your house if your parents are home. Like I laid out some rules. And it didn't even it wasn't like, or I'm going to kick your ass. Like, no, he's 15 or 16, whatever. But I'll tell you, dude, like us men, we want that. That kid, when he left my backyard, he shook my hand and he looked in my eyes and everything was like, I want to be called up to like responsibility. Like I want this. And I know, dude, I mean, teenage boys are idiots. Grown men are idiots. But it's a part of his story now that he knows that I am present. And I think it's really important for us dads to let them know we're present.
Young men, teens especially, they crave that. They crave mentorship. They crave strong men to look up to. I love that we're getting deep into this. I run a mentorship program at one of the local high schools for at-risk teen boys. Specifically tier 3 at-risk teen boys. We call it Project Crew because we're a crew. And I would say 90% of my boys, I'm sorry.
I love that. I love it.
I'd say 90% of our boys have an absent father. And that a lot of the risky behavior that they are engaging in, it's drugs, it's violence, it's gang activity, it's just trouble in school or being completely disconnected. Some of the kids that qualify as tier 3 are completely disconnected from school and disconnected from social life at all. And they're at risk to doing harm to themselves. And almost always has to do with a lack of a strong male figure in the
Yes.
And what we do is we come in, we try our best to give them that, to give them a strong male figure. We do a fitness program with them, but we hold them to a really high standard. I teach them how to shake somebody's hand, and I make them come in and they shake our hand. I teach them to shake your hand firmly and pull them in and look them in the eye when you shake their hand. We teach them all of those, and they always test you a little bit, and they have to test you to make sure that they trust you. You're not just going to leave the first time they piss you off. But what's really cool is once they push and they try to get you to leave and you don't, and you continue holding them to the same high standard, it gets to the point where they'll do anything for you. They'll run through a brick wall for you. They'll do their homework for you because they don't want to disappoint you. And I actually just had lunch with one of our boys that graduated last year, and he's going to college. Like, he went from, we were worried if he was going to even survive for the next year in high school and stay out of prison. And now he's going to college, and he's coming out lunch with me and all of that, because they crave that. They want to be held to a higher standard. And usually they rise to it. If you hold people to a high standard, it's not that you're expecting too much out of them. You're expecting what they're able to give, and they'll almost always match it.
Expect what they're able to give. Like, you are showing them, revealing their identity. Like, no, dude, this is who you are. Yeah. Man, our young men need that. And dude, kudos to you. Like, I remember you telling us about this program. I just think it's beautiful. And dudes listening, like, you don't have to own a gym to do something. Braden straight up called local high school, and I want your hardest kids. I want the kids that are not going to make it, give them to me and go. I mean, you could go do something in a parking lot with these kids. And I just, dude, I love it. What a success story to, like, literally just have had lunch with this kid.
Yeah.
Braden, my friend, dude, we could talk for hours. I'm so grateful God connected us, connected our paths about a month ago. Before I ask my last question, is there anything that you're going to be laying your head down to not go to sleep tonight going, I wish I would have said X, Y, or Z?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I'm excited that I got this opportunity. I really feel like God put us in each other's paths for a reason.
Yeah, he's good like that.
I mean, there's really no reason that Rise Up Kings called me at my gym and wanted to set this event up, and then you're there running it, and all the puzzle pieces were for a reason. And I'm so glad that I got to meet you and have an opportunity to share my story. Like I said in the beginning, I haven't talked about a lot of this stuff. So,
well, thank you for trusting me and all the men that you shared this with. Thanks for trusting us. My friend, here's my last question for you. Imagine you are dropping your daughter off at college, or she's moving out of your house. She's lived with you the last 18 years. What are the 2 or 3 things that you want her to know or feel as she steps into this next season of adulthood?
I want her to know that she's loved without me having to tell her. I want her to know it. And I want her to know that she always has home wherever her mother and I are.
I love it, bro. I love the environment you are creating for your daughter. I love that you are wrestling through all of life's messiness and just attacking it head on. And in the midst of all that, you are still sharing your gifts with your own community of people who have trusted you with their health and fitness, as well as going out finding the lost sheep who are the unseen and the unnoticed, and noticing them and letting them know that they matter as well, while you're also going through life's, kind of biggest thing right now, new dad and battling cancer.
Yeah.
So Braden, I commend you. I thank you for your time. Much love to you and blessing to your family. I look forward to our paths crossing again.
Of course.
All right, my friend, until next time. What an incredible conversation. I don't really even know what to say. I was not expecting the component of the stepping into stage 4 of cancer while also becoming a father, the heaviness. And I'm just so appreciative of the openness and the vulnerability of Braden to share with us. If you want to check him out, it's coach_Rubey, Rubey, on Instagram, and you can go learn more about his CrossFit gym out in Texas. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That is who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact and create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.